You may have just ended a night of PUBG with the boys, and a few minutes go by, and you get a message from one of them. It's this video. You could think of it as kind of a slap in the face from a caring friend. They want you to know that your game sense, well, it sucks. It looks like this.
Ooh, he's gaming.
But fear not, for I am Lennox of the Dumbees clan, Dumb for short, and I will guide you in the ways of getting good and sucking less. I'll teach you to have game sense to become one of the sweatiest players in the lobby. I know I can, because I happen to be one of them.
These guys aren't really low level. They're actually really good fucking solid players, it seems like.
I've never heard of this guy before.
I've never really heard of him either. But man, he plays. He's got his peaks on point. He's got his fucking angles on point. He watches both sides.
Okay. You've built enough credibility. Just get to the point.
Fine. We'll focus on helping you understand where you should devote your attention when you're in the game. The main three things that'll help you prioritize your focus is first, the terrain and surroundings, second, enemies, and third, your allies. You should be aware of the concept of no-go areas. These are areas that offer no protection or advantage. An example would be the big open space near school on Erangel. Avoid areas like this because if you don't, your PUBG experience is going to feel a little bit more like a flight simulator. You should be aware of the term called dead space. Now, dead space is just any location that you cannot see or fight. Let's look at an example. In this diagram, assume you're on the high ground right here, and you're looking down a hill. There's a creek that has a small ridge and some buildings with woods behind it. These are the areas that an enemy can pop up at any moment to make your happy day into a sad one. The big takeaway here is to keep an eye on the areas that border dead space. Let me repeat that. The big takeaway here is to keep an eye on areas that border dead space. Once you understand this concept, you will instinctively start to see all the ways that your enemies can do you harm. This can be very overwhelming when you realize that you have 360 degrees of dead space around you for large portions of a match. So what can you do? Cry? Give up? No. This is where we start to find ways to limit that 360 degrees of danger and find areas that are a higher priority to focus on. You can use cover and concealment. Cover being anything that blocks vision and bullets, kind of like walls, rocks, and trees, while concealment is something that only blocks vision, like leaves and smokes. If you hug a wall while moving, you can reduce your 360 degrees of danger to something like 180 degrees. It's even better if you use a little bit of smoke to cover some extra space. If you're in a corner, you effectively have only 90 degrees of danger to worry about. If you're fighting from a building by shooting through a small window, you effectively can reduce that 360 degrees down to something as small as 0 to 15. In all that you do, just constantly think of ways to reduce the possible lines of sight that an enemy could have on you. If you struggle with this concept, you can literally spin very slowly in a circle to analyze your surroundings. Trust me, you won't have to do that every time, because as you get better at this skill, your brain will start doing it by default. And you won't have to physically look at everything to analyze the potential dangers, the terrain, and so forth. By reducing what you have to focus on and analyzing your advantages and disadvantages, your game sense will improve. It will. When it comes to enemies, I think that this is a lot more straightforward. You need to focus on them. Whether that be just their general direction or if you physically see them. They need to be on your radar. You need to have them on your mental 360-degree mind map, alright? It's especially important to focus on those enemies that have the luxury of choosing when they get to fight you, and you have no choice in the matter. But on the flip side, when you have the choice of when you fight them, you can always put those enemies on the back burner for a little bit. You can do a 360-degree check for any bits of danger, and a lot of the times you'll actually catch a third party rolling up on you. When it comes to allies can help you understand where dangers are coming from. This ranges from the obvious callouts.
Guys, whole team northeast. Get in the buildings. Get in the buildings.
Ooh, the buildings!
Northeast as well, we're surrounded.
To you having to look at the map or compass to determine what directions that they're fighting.
I got a guy here to hit.
Keep allies' positions in your mental 360-degree mind map, because this will help you pick out enemy footsteps better, enemy shots better, They'll also help you to reduce your worries by some fraction because they have to deal with problems before it becomes your problem. Now let's talk about some of the common mistakes that players make that drastically reduce their game sense. The first kind of mistake is when the player becomes a little bit of a loot goblin. They see that extra pack of 5.56 sitting on the ground. They already have 200 in their inventory. They don't know that because they don't ever check their inventory. They just see what's on the ground. And they make it their life's mission to go and pick it up. They remove all the worries from their mind and forget about all the dead space and the enemies that they were previously aware of. And, you know, occasionally their teammates are falling in battle, crying for help. But it's too late. The loot goblin has already resorted to their primal instincts, becoming smooth-brained and irresponsive. The second most common mistake is when a player becomes so focused on one enemy or problem that they never check their surroundings, they never listen to their ears, they don't listen to their teammates. They're just so focused. You know, even while in cover, they just stare intently at that speck on the rock as if they had x-ray vision and they were going to somehow get an advantage by, you know, staring at this one little tiny spot. Whatever you do, just don't stare at a wall, a rock, or a tree, especially when you're reloading or healing. Just look other places. The third biggest mistake that I know of is when you get that fresh kill and you want to run over there and get their loot ASAP. But there's something in the back of your mind that tells you you shouldn't, but you just go ahead and go for it anyway. And this is what's going to happen. To recap, we've covered the 3 biggest ways that you can improve your game sense and how you can apply it in your games to get better. First, you gain an understanding of the terrain and surroundings and the potential threats that they introduce. You also found ways to reduce those threats. Second, you gain an understanding of your enemy's locations. Just always keep them in your brain. And lastly, you gained an understanding of knowing the advantages of where your allies are located. Things like callouts, context clues, and reducing your areas of focus are all of the advantages that you get from knowing where your allies are. When you have those 3 things on lockdown and you shove them into your mental mind map on autopilot, at that point, you will have mastered game sense. If you want more content like this, please like and subscribe, as it would drastically give me more motivation to make videos like this. Please drop a comment on any subject that you want to improve in, and I might make a video on it. Or if you have something related to game sense that I missed, please share it. Okay, bye.